Straight off the back of our amazing Halloween Kills episode, I'm so excited for something that's not going to be as brutal and as nasty and as as dark and as horrible. Shit. This movie got Game Week. You selected the one and only Silent Hill. Welcome to the darkness. You are now listening to Home of Halloween's podcast. This is the horror movie review podcast run and controlled by you, the listeners.
You want to die tonight?
You choose the movies I review. You also get to have your say in the 3-word review.
It's time you fucks contributed something to the cause.
I promise you, you have never heard a podcast like this before, so welcome to the You Run podcast.
Are we having fun now?
No.
Welcome to the You Run podcast. My name is Scott. I'm your host, and each week I take you through the movies you have chosen for me to review. Coming off the back of our Halloween special, which was Halloween Kills with Horror Review Girl, I was looking forward to something that a little bit fun, a little bit quiet and down, a bit toned down, and you all picked Silent Hill. So thanks for that. You had loads in there that was like fun and happy and like Mortal Kombat. Like, oh wow, fighting! But no, you went with something dark, really, really dark, and that's cool. This is the show you run and control, and that's what I'm in for. I'm in for you telling me what to watch. I played Silent Hill as a child. It is the only thing outside of a horror movie that has ever made me jump. Proper jump. Controller in the air, scream, lights on, the fucking lot. I was thrilled when you picked Silent Hill. My guest later today is Robby Horror. Robby wasn't as thrilled as me. And the reason that is because Robby doesn't know a huge amount about video games. In his own admission, he's not a gamer. And when I approached him and said, look, I want you to come on this movie got Game Week, he's like, well, I don't know anything about video games. So that's cool because I don't want him to. I want Robby to give you his love of horror and share the knowledge that he's got on movies and to look at Silent Hill as a movie, not as this nostalgic game that I loved. So I wanted that kind of independent third person. Robby's going to wow you with his knowledge on fucking everything. And I'm pretty sure Robby may even put in a stand-up performance in Purge or Play. But he might not. The questions are fucking hard. You all know that. I'm going to get into the review, but first of all, I'm going to play you the trailer.
Honey, sometimes when you go to sleep, you go on a little walk. And sometimes you talk about a place.
I don't remember.
That's why we're gonna go there. So you can remember.
Sharon's gone. I need your help. I'm not okay. Please, hurry.
The fire started 30 years ago.
I don't know what's happening. Do you know what's going on here?
This place is completely cut off.
Only the dark one opens and closes the door to Silent Hill.
Where is she? I'm trying to find my wife.
She looks exactly like Sharon.
Why? Rose, come on! Rose, hurry! It's coming!
What's happening?
To find your daughter, you must face the darkness of hell.
It's okay, baby. Mommy's coming.
Without a shadow of a doubt, Silent Hill is one of, if not the best, movie adaptation of a video game. I can't think of another movie beyond maybe the newest Mortal Kombat that captures a video game as well as Silent Hill does. The director and the production of this movie done an incredibly good job of porting over what is a very, very, very complex story and complex game into a cohesive story on screen. And that's not easy to do. It's really, really not. We've seen so many other things tried to be brought from video games to movies, and they can't do it. Or if they do it, we look at it and go, what the fuck was that? But Silent Hill's not like that. It engages you, it drags you in, and it keeps you on that tender hooks, kind of uncomfortable feeling pretty much throughout the movie. When the siren first goes, that feeling in the pit of your stomach is truly there. And there's not many pure horrors that can do that to me, but Silent Hill puts that pit in my stomach and makes me go, oh no. And they follow that up with some of the best monster creation of any horror movie. The nurses, the guy in the toilet stool, the charred children, even Pyramid Head, they're all done so well, put together and made to look exactly how they did in the game. And that's outstanding. Is this movie perfect? No, it's not. There are issues with this movie. Some of the issues are all surrounding the little world that Sean Bean's in. You see, you've got the really dark, sirens gone off, nasty ass Silent Hill. You've got there's some weird shit going on, foggy Silent Hill. Then you've got real world pissing down with rain with Sean Bean in it world. That world with Sean Bean, we'll call it the wet world. The wet world was diabolical. I do not know why they added that. They added this kind of real world that's soaking wet and it's pissing down with rain all the time. And if it added something to the story, I'd have been fully on board with it. I love Sean Bean as an actor, but it done nothing. It literally done nothing. And that put another half an hour, maybe 40 minutes into this movie that didn't fucking need to be there. If you took that out, I would argue that Silent Hill is possibly one of the best horrors ever. But that world it diluted the nastiness of Silent Hill, and it made it a bit too drawn out. Whereas if they'd just stuck in Silent Hill, it would have been fast paced and it would have literally been terrifying almost from start to finish. That's what I think of this movie. Let's find out what you think of this movie. I asked you for them. You delivered them. This week's Real Word Reviews. Okay, let's kick off this week's 3-word review. So we've got Blood Guts UK, Best Game Adaptation. We've got Scary Things 666, Complete Mindfuck. We've got Michaela Marie 105, Gory, Disturbing, Brilliant. We've got Tea in a Tizzy, Not Too Shabby. And finally, Where's the Horror Section? Foggy Pyramid Scheme. I like that one. I like that one a lot. A little bit about our 3-word reviewers this week. So we've got T and a Tizzy, who's a Halloween and horror account. We've got Where's the Horror Section, who's a pure horror account. We've got Michaela Marie 105, who's a mixed fandom cosplay account. Scary Thing 666 is a mask and prop creator. Sorry, a horror mask and prop creator. And Blood Guts UK is a movie reviewer and a horror account. Thank you very much to all of our 3-word reviewers. The 3-word reviews are getting better. Every single week there's more people taking part and more people getting involved. But I want more of you to be involved. So the 3-word reviews are purely on Instagram now. So probably about a week before I put an episode out, I'm going to put a picture of the movie that we're reviewing goes up on our Instagram. Across the front, it says, give this movie your 3-word review. It's simple. Give it a 3-word review. If yours are the best, I'll get them picked. I'll read them on the air. I'll give you a shout out for your account. You'll also get your link to your account in the episode bio, which everyone who's given a 3-word review today, you can find their handle in the episode bio, so you can go and give them a follow. The 3-word review is something that's dear to my heart, and I still think it's the best way for you to get your voice heard on the show. So please do get involved with the 3-word review. Thank you again to everyone who gave 3-word reviews this week, and that was this week's 3-word reviews. Okay, recommended account of the week. I think you're all going to raise your eyebrows a little bit when I recommend this week's account and possibly think that I finally tipped over the edge and lost my mind. But I haven't. My recommended account this week is Horror Movie Talk. They're on Instagram, they're on various different social medias, but I'm not interested in you going and following their account. I want you to go and listen to their show. They've got a horror movie review podcast like mine. Well, in fact, it's very different to mine. We're very, very different shows. The reason I want to recommend them is because they are a huge inspiration to me. And one of the reasons I started the show in the beginning. So I listen to Horror Movie Talk every single week in, week out. I do not miss an episode. They do deep dives into movies and really, really deep. They're incredibly opinionated. They're not for everyone. I will pre-warn you that they are not for everyone, but they're definitely for me. And I think they'll be for a huge chunk of you as well. So go and search Horror Movie Talk on wherever you listen to your podcast. Give an episode a listen. And that's my recommended account this week. Fucks and Fuck-Ups. Fucks and Fuck-Ups? Facts and Fuck-Ups. Okay, I'm going to start this week with my facts, and we'll get onto yours in a minute. So apart from the song Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash, all of the music in Silent Hill is taken straight from the video game. They used 165 different sets and locations in this movie. If you go and Google any movie, pick a movie, I don't care which one, go and Google any movie. No movie uses that many sets and locations. It's just too expensive. It's just ludicrous, but they did. Budget-wise and money-wise, this done really well, especially for a video game. So it had a $50 million budget and grossed worldwide over $100 million, which for a video game is fucking amazing. When you get to the first section of the end credits of this movie, they're almost identical to the end credits of the first game. Were you ever lucky enough or brave enough to complete it? My final fact is it took director Christoph Gans 5 years to get the rights to the movie. Konami didn't want to give them up and had no intention of making a movie from their game. What Christoph done is he sent a video to Konami saying what Silent Hill meant to him, and in that video he also put scenes that he had filmed out of his own pocket, and he'd put the video game music over the top. And after Konami saw that, they agreed to give him the rights to the movie. On to fuck-ups. So I'm going to say again, the fuck-ups is not me digging at the movie. The fuck-ups is me pointing out things that you can see and you can spot yourself, because I get a lot of backlash every week for fuck ups. Saying, you're just picking holes in it. I'm really not. I'm really not. And I like Silent Hill. I really like Silent Hill. So fuck ups in this movie is when Rose crashes her Jeep. You can see quite clearly that she goes into a ditch nose first and stops suddenly. When she wakes up, the Jeep is magically on its roof in the middle of the road. So is it Silent Hill? Is it just weird, or is it a fuck up? I think it's a fuck up. The second one is we believe the time gap between the initial coal fire that burnt Silent Hill to now is around about 30 years. The character Officer Gucci is in both timelines, so he's 30 years ago and he's now, but appears to be exactly the same age in both timelines. I'm going that's a fuck up, or Silent Hill has the Fountain of Youth. I'm not sure which. Your give us a fact this week is fucking outstanding. I've got to say, to the point that I didn't believe it. I thought it was a fake fact. And when I went and Googled it, I was like, shit, that's amazing. So it comes in from Black Teddy Bear on Instagram. The Silent Hill, the setting of Silent Hill, is based on a real place called Centralia, Pennsylvania. The town had a coal fire back in 1962, which caused the town to be abandoned. It was a mine fire. It caused cracks in the road and smoke and smog and that kind of mist effect you get in Silent Hill. That happened in 1962. That coal fire still burns today, and it still has that same eerie effect that you see in Silent Hill. And that was this week's listener's fact. And that is facts and fuck-ups. Not fucks and fuck-ups. Fucks, I can't even say what I said wrong first time. That is facts and fuck-ups. Okay, we've had 3-word reviews, we've had facts and fuck-ups, we've had my thoughts on the movie, we've had the trailer, we've covered the fucking lot. I think it's time to introduce my guest. My guest today is Robby Horror, and if you don't follow Robby Horror, you are truly missing out on something special. I'm not going to tell you to go and follow him now. I'm not even going to tell you where you can find him now. I'm going to let you listen to this interview with Robby, let you hear that everything horror just ooze out of every inch of him. And after that, at the end of the show, I'm going to tell you where you can go and find him, because you're going to want to. I can guarantee you that. And here is my guest, Robby Horror. So welcome, Robby Horror, to the You Run podcast.
Thank you so much.
I'm delighted that you've come on and joined us, and the reason I'm really delighted you're here is because your love of horror comes across in every post you do, every podcast I've heard you on. Literally everything about your page on Instagram just oozes a true love of horror, and that's rare.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm thrilled that people are actually responding to it, and that other fellow horror fans can find it and just kind of bask in the glow of our beloved genre with me. It's wonderful.
It is, and I love your account because you don't just review movies. You do review movies, but that's not all you do. You share personal photos of yourself. You share. It's not just an account where you go, I've reviewed this movie. You tell us about you and about your life as well. I've got to ask, what got you into horror? What was it that hooked you in?
It's a really good question. It goes back probably to when I was 6 or 7. I remember, I have a big family, so I'm always visiting cousins, or cousins are visiting my parents when we were growing up, and I'd always be walking in when kind of the next generation up of my cousins or aunts and uncles, whoever, were watching. I remember walking in on films that I would later recognize as, let's say, Child's Play 2, or Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Halloween 6. So these films that or It, with Tim Curry, I'd walk in and see a shot or a quick scene. I was just fascinated by it. I was terrified. I remember walking in on the carnival scene from Child's Play 3 when
Okay.
when he's pursuing Andy and the other kid through a haunted house. And it just, I couldn't move. I was so stunned by what I was seeing. I was watching a doll come to life and just, chase these kids. And I was like, what is going on? But but through that, there was a fascination with it, and which followed was a fascination with Halloween, the holiday, and just loved dressing up and getting into the spirit of it. And then I think it was probably Scream, seeing Scream on opening weekend in my hometown with my dad and my little sister, which really kind of cemented my love of the genre and love of actually being scared and being made uncomfortable in that context. And also, Scream, as we all know, every 5 minutes or less, there's visual references. They specify certain movies. They mention different characters. So when I got that on VHS, I would take out a notepad and write down every line or reference that I didn't understand, and I would go and rent those movies. So by the time that I was probably 12 or 13, I understood every single line in that movie. And that's,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And
That's an incredible fact. I love that. I love that a horror movie had such an effect on you that you went, I need to get it. I need to get all of the in jokes, and there's, especially in Scream, there are so many references to other horror. I think Scream sits in a very unique place where there's not many movies that will reference everything else so openly and in such a respectful way that they reference these movies as what they are. So if it's a bad trashy 80s movie, they near as damn it say it word for word. This is a bad trashy 80s movie. I loved it. And I think that's great. And what are your thoughts on Scream 5? Because obviously that's coming early next year. Are you hopeful or are you concerned?
I think above all, any chance to drop in to see how Sydney doing, Gail are doing is kind of a cause for me to celebrate. And I think horror fans in general are just excited to see them again. Like, how often is it that we get to follow the same core characters over the course of decades and have the same actors play them, for instance, and they feel consistent, which is another key factor that other horror franchises might miss if another actor plays the character or they have different writers. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see them, and I'm interested because the trailer didn't, it show in this day and age, trailers tend to show everything. But with this one, I feel like number one, they didn't show very much. And number two, they didn't even tap into what perhaps made everyone so eager to return on this one. I feel like this one felt different than Scream 4. Everyone from Kevin Williamson to Nev Campbell, who kind of, she loves the films, but she seems to kind of be like, if Kevin and Wes aren't involved, well, I'm not really sure, but she
Yeah.
jumped on board, and it doesn't seem like any of them need the payday. So it seems,
Yeah.
I'm curious of what about this particular script? What was the hook that kind of said, all right, this seems different, you know?
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued because, as you say, trailers now literally show you almost a play-by-play in order of what you're going to see when you get to the cinema, and the Scream trailer really gave you nothing. It gave a tiny little bit. It showed the characters are back. It showed that there was some deaths, but beyond that, it didn't give any context. There was no real insight into what the story may be, and no real insight into who the killers might be either. Because I've got a theory. I know it's way out there, but I've got a feeling that Matthew Lillard may return.
Surprise, Sydney.
I keep hearing that, and I've been hearing that enough times recently that I'm like, what if, like, do they dare go there? Like, after all this time, do they bring back Stu? Um,
Yeah, I think it was actually him who caused the initial stir because he put out a tweet, and his tweet just said, "Would a TV really have killed me?" And
he's the one, yeah.
he's the one who started the sort of the ball rolling of everyone thinking it might be him.
Matthew Lillard. I mean, I've seen a few like convention appearances where he tends to drop that little nugget. I'm like, what does he know that the rest of us don't? Um,
Either that or it's just an amazingly well put together swerve and he's not in it at all. And again, I'd love that because he's obviously got enough of love for the franchise that he's willing to try and convince people that he's in it knowing full well he's not. And I think that's rare. Not many actors would do that.
I mean, the impression I've got about him over the course of just seeing, I don't know how many hours of interviews with really the entire cast, that he is just a really, sweet guy, but he's also a bit of a scamp in that he would be the one to kind of lead viewers down that little rabbit hole to distract them perhaps from the real twist, which who knows if he's even aware of it, because I think that even the cast of the film wasn't aware until well into filming who was under the costume or what character.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's a brilliant way to film a movie. It stops leaks getting out and it stops it being ruined for us because so many movies are ruined for us before we get to see them. We know the plot, we know the killers, we know the twists, and the second it's released, if you don't watch it on release day, every bit of information is force fed to us on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else. It's almost impossible to watch a movie having that kind of blind enjoyment now.
absolutely. And this is why, number one, A24 does a really great job of this, because with Hereditary, I thought that they gave us the entire movie. I was like, all right, well, now I know that I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I was putting together pieces that were meant to be put together in the wrong way. If
Yeah,
you know where I'm going with that, there are characters that, well, and I won't go any further with that, but for Halloween Kills, within, I think it was just the first trailer, not even the ones that have come out since in the past month, but within 15 seconds, I already knew two people who died and how they died, and I was like,
yeah.
I need to stop this. I can't do it. And then every time it showed in the theater when I went to go see Candyman or Malignant, I just said, nope, I can't do it. And I would literally like plug my friends thought I was crazy. I plugged my ears. I looked down at the ground and I'm like, no, I'm not going to let anything get in the way. So to this day, I keep seeing flashes of, things. I'm like, nope, I can't do it. Just to see what happens. I feel like horror, if not like horror in particular, it's best to go in cold if possible.
Yeah, I do as well, and especially with certain movies that, well, you gave Hereditary as a prime example. That movie shocked me. It was one of the first horrors for a
Yeah.
long time that I kind of went, "Oh my God, I didn't see that coming at all," and it took a completely different path. And again, and like you, I'm not going to delve into it because if people haven't seen it, I don't want to. I don't want to ruin it for them. But that type of horror where you're expecting something and you get something completely different. I love that. I love being fooled. I love going expecting a slasher and I get a ghost movie or anything like anything that gives me a twist that I didn't see. I'm fully on board for.
100%. And we've grown up watching these films, and at this point, jump scares, twists, a lot of those things were conditions to kind of look at and say, all right, they're mentioning this character quite a bit, or this character is in the film for no reason. What's that about? Or you can almost count down the seconds to a jump scare. I can literally go boom and point as the cat jumps out of the shower or whatever. Um, but it's super refreshing when Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, like any of our contemporary greats can still shock us in that way, where we're just like, I have no idea where this movie is going. And that's, for a horror film, what is better than that when you feel like you're in uncharted territory?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, talking about horror movies in general, what are if you had to pick your sort of top five, what would be your top five horrors? And I know that's a really hard question to ask anyone.
Oh man, I actually, I kind of wrote this down, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to give you, so pre 1990, because the 90s is where I kind of came of age as a horror fan. Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Peeping Tom, Alien, and Black Christmas would be like my favorites from the 60s all the way up to the 90s.
Yeah.
And of course, there are great films from the 30s and 40s, 50s, but I feel like the 60s is where things really started to gel together as an art form.
Yeah.
And it's beyond the 90s. Scream, Session 9, Hereditary, Wreck, and Get Out would be my top 5 for the contemporary age.
Yeah, you've got some brilliant movies in your list. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my all-time favorites. Again, because it the lack of like musical score and the jump scares in that are they come out of nowhere. You genuinely don't see them coming. Like when he slams that door right at like the first kill, it's like,
Mm,
oh my God. Because I think horror directors and producers have become quite lazy and they use the musical score almost as a they make a loud noise go, you must be scared because we've made a loud noise with our
yeah.
jump scare. And you tend to find older horror movies don't do that. They just scare you. They just set out to scare you, and they don't do that big boom of noise with it. And I really like that.
I totally agree with you. And, like, regardless of the era, a good horror score for me is one that either knows when to cut out completely or plays against your expectations a little bit. I think
Yeah,
Poltergeist is a good example of that.
They're here.
Even though that score is extremely bombastic, there are great moments of silence, and there's also like a kind of a childlike lullaby that kind of goes through it, which because there's a child in peril the entire time, so that makes thematic sense. But I have a huge love for horror scores, and yeah, when they're used judiciously and carefully, it's even better.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Now we've spoken about your best horror movies and your favorite horror movies. Let's talk a little bit about Silent Hill, the movie that we're here to review.
Yes.
What was your initial thoughts? Because I watched this way back when it came out, and I was much younger, and I'd played the video game, and the video game was genuinely scary. And then the movie, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. Let's see. For the listeners, let's say I am extremely naive when it comes to the world of gaming, video games, what have you. I kind of grew up playing Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn, and 64. But at a certain point, I guess it was just like motion sickness or whatever. I just kind of stayed away from that and went more towards film and theater as my modes of entertainment.
Yeah,
But I did play Silent Hill 2, I believe. I had a friend who was kind of guiding me through it because I'm just, again, I'm a dope when it comes to that kind of thing. But he was like pointing, he knew where the clues were and whatnot, and he knew that I loved horror movies, so I was just kind of immersed in the fog and the creepiness, and it was just very an unsettling experience.
yeah,
So then flash forward to 2006. I'm in college at this point, and a bunch of students in my theater department happens to be Silent Hill fans, so we all went to go see it. And I remember noting that the film did a great job of capturing that creeping isolation that you feel in the town, especially once our lead character Rose goes in there and it's foggy and there's the fallen ash and whatnot, and just the creeping sense of knowing that it won't stay this, pun intended, silent for long, and that there
yeah.
will be things coming for her. Narratively, I thought, we'll get more into specifics, but narratively, I had a harder time with it, and that still is the case upon rewatch. I've seen bits and pieces of it in the years since, but well, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I think I'm sitting in the same position as you. So the elements of this film I really enjoyed. I love the when it turns from the fog misty to that really
Yes.
dark world, and although the CGI is dated, it still holds up fairly well because they've done a good job of making that transition. I think where I struggled is there's big elements in the movie that I think are put there purely for game fans, like where she's going through the drawers and she's trying multiple drawers and they just make the rattling noise. That was very much. I almost felt like I was watching someone play the game, and I think it was intentional as kind of a almost as a nod to this is a game, but I found things like that took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think the story is really good, and I think the thing that frustrates me with most movies that are made from video games tend to have a fairly solid story. I've done quite a bit of digging into the Silent Hill game, and the story for that is it's fairly linear, and it's quite a solid, scary story. And when they come to the movie, instead of following that, they kind of tried to take it on its own little path. And I'm noticing a trend with most video game movies. They try to take it its own little way, where I think sometimes maybe stick with the source material you've got, and it might deliver a better movie. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I feel on Silent Hill. I think they tried to make it too Hollywood, as opposed to sticking with this very raw, very visceral source material they had.
No, I agree with you. And honestly, I don't envy anyone who takes it upon themselves to adapt a video game because, unlike, if you're adapting a book, you have chapters and chapters of internal monologues and character detail that you can kind of jettison in order to kind of whittle down the book to its essentials. What do you absolutely need to get the
Yeah,
story across? For video games, what in my limited knowledge of them, and I think that over time they've gotten much more immersive and much more detailed in terms of story and script, and like a lot of
yeah,
them just look like films to begin with. And Silent Hill was one of the first ones where I was like, holy, like I can easily see this as a film.
yeah.
And so I think that Roger Avery and Christoph Gans did a very admirable job because one of the films up for contention for this episode was House of the Dead, for instance, which I mean, I don't
I
even know
think
where to begin with that one. But I think we'd be talking for a half hour about. I'd be searching the entire time for something good to say about it. But
when
with
I put that in the poll, I did have a moment where I went, well, what if that gets picked?
what if it
What?
gets picked? I wouldn't know. I like it. We dive in, we be professional, we do it. But my goodness, what if that? What if they?
It's so bad, and I love giving the listeners the choice on the show. I genuinely do, because it makes it really interesting for me, because I don't know
Sure.
what I'm going to watch, and but there are times when I do question. So I think it was about 4 episodes. I had the delight of reviewing Sharknado,
Yes.
which, which without a doubt is the worst movie I think I've ever had to endure ever. It was so bad. Um,
It's yeah.
but again, that's part of the fun of this show is I don't have control. People do pick the movies for me. People get to give their reviews on it, and I like that. I like being able to bring people in. I know, obviously, like you, I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and they tend to pick their own movies and they say what they want about the movie, and that's kind of the end. I wanted to have something where that wasn't the end. It was I don't have a say, and everyone gets to have their thoughts, and that's kind of why I wanted to do a podcast, to make something different.
And that's I really appreciate about your page because for me, I'll wake up and be like, oh, what movie do I want to discuss or kind of meme about or review? But there is a freedom in kind of letting the fans and the followers and people who enjoy your page decide that for you because you might be seeing something that you haven't seen before.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'll do a poll if I want to kind of go into two films, I'll ask the followers which one they'd rather hear about, and I'll go with that. But I do love that you really give the listeners their saying what they want to hear, so that they'll enjoy the episode too.
yeah, and it makes it more fun for them as well, especially if it's a really close poll, which we've had before. The people who got the movie they want are like, oh, that's brilliant, I got it. And the people who didn't are like, oh, it was so close, and they listen as well. And it's kind of a nice little hook, because they are involved and they are part of the show as much as me, and on this episode you and anyone else is. They've got as much control as we have.
for sure. And I'm, to the point, I'm glad they chose Silent Hill because of the crop of films that were up for contention. It is probably, it has to be one of the best video game adaptations that I've ever seen. Which is granted not saying very much, but I think as a horror film, where horror is one where atmosphere is crucial, and that is something that the creative team for this film absolutely nail. Because right from that first siren, you get this. I remember being in the theater and like kind of shrinking down in my seat, not really remembering that part from the game, but just knowing that sonically that sound had done something to me. And then of
Yeah.
course you see the kind of ripping away of the facade of the town to transfer over into the dark Silent Hill that we know and love. And then the creatures pop out, and the creature designs are extraordinary. And I believe,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes. Some of the creatures. I think the creature in the bathroom
the
was
janitor.
the janitor
Oh
was
my god.
brilliant. And again, the scorched children, the first creatures that you see, they were really chilling, and I didn't like those. But I think the one that done it for me was the nurses,
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
because
Yeah.
that scene was so well done because they weren't doing anything. They weren't scary because they were chasing her. They weren't scary because they were trying to kill her. They were scary because she had to get past them. And to do that, she had to walk through them. And that I thought was a better scare than being chased by one of the monsters earlier.
Oh, absolutely. It's that kind of creeping tension, and you find yourself being absolutely silent when she has to be. I was
Mm.
watching it, and as soon as she turns down the hall and sees them, I was like, "Oh, fuck, not this again," because I had forgotten about that bit. And then they have scalpels. You're like, "Oh well, if she shines the light on them, or if she touches one of them, she's going to be screwed."
Yeah.
So it's an ingenious horror scene for sure. And the janitor, just incidentally, the actor who played the janitor is also the same actor behind Pyramid Head.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
If you
And
watch it again, the same body type. Yeah.
oh, is it really? Because Pyramid Head, I know in the games is a really big character from what I've read and what I've seen, and I think he has quite a pivotal role in the sequel to this. But in this, I didn't think he'd done a great deal. I don't think he added a huge amount to it. Out of all of them, I would say he was the one I was probably least scared of.
It wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't scared of him per se, but it was kind of like when he first kind of slowly saunters out with holding that massive blade. It's
Yeah,
like your jaw just drops. You're like, what the? Like, can we swear on the
yeah,
show?
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah.
What
You
the
can swear.
fuck is that? I can't even. And I had seen a picture of him. I think someone showed me, like en route to the theater. They showed me a picture of him, and I was like, "Oh no, 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 no! That's horrifying." So just hearing the blade and just being like, "Oh no," and then seeing him just in the flesh, as it were, was very intimidating. And the actor and the sound design and the makeup, it just all comes together. Same thing with the janitor, with his kind of tongue, which when you figure out what he has done to Alessa when she was, a young girl, it makes it even more unsettling, and it's just kind of imbues it with extra darkness. And then
Yeah,
the screaming children, horrifying, because again, that is the first thing that Rose sees that freaks her out when things change. So just as far as atmosphere, aesthetics, creature design, aces all over the board. It's really just kind of the narrative and the way that things unfold that is a little bit uh,
I
sloppy, and yeah, and just kind of
yeah, a little bit. I found it a little bit disjointed. It was kind of like the keeping jumping back to Sean Bean and her husband. I found that kind of irrelevant to the overall story. I understood what they were trying to do. I just think they done it very badly.
yeah, yeah, and that subplot with Officer Gucci and the husband Sean Bean, I believe that was added in a subsequent draft of the film. They were like, oh well, there's no male characters in this one, and so they added that subplot, which to your point, is to the film's detriment, I think, because it pads out an already long. The movie's over 2 hours long,
Yeah.
which for a horror film, unless there's a lot going on, which is, the movie does have things going on, don't get me wrong, but you could easily take it out and the movie wouldn't be affected because ultimately the husband, that subplot doesn't really go anywhere. He doesn't find them.
Yeah,
And
he
just kind of
doesn't.
taking it out wholesale would have really made a world of difference.
Yeah, and I think this is a movie I think it's, what is it, 2 hours, 10 minutes, and they could have
Yeah.
done it in an hour 40, and it would have been an infinitely better and a much faster paced movie. And I think you would have found yourself kind of going, oh my God, a lot more, as opposed to having these bits where it was like, oh, that's really shocking, followed by flicking to the husband who's just stood in the rain. And
Yeah.
there
You're like, why,
was
why
a
are we back
couple,
to this again?
there was a couple of scenes, because I watched it with Lisa, my wife, and there was a couple of scenes where it flicked back to Sean Minch. She's like, I don't care. I genuinely do not care about this character. Go back to what's going on in Silent Hill, because that's what I'm interested in. Yes, I'm standing in the rain looking for my daughter. Yes, this is as deep and meaningful as my part in this movie is.
Exactly. And why should you care? Like, we've spent all this time with Rose, Sybil, looking for Sharon. Christabella is a very interesting and kind of imposing character. Alice Krieg, who is, I think, in my opinion, kind of the standout of the film.
Yeah,
She's just very unnerving, and she has this kind of maternal warmth inherent to her as an actress and just as a person. So when she's doing this, or when she was playing the witch in Gretel and Hansel, it really is unnerving because she just has this kind of warm quality to her that when you subvert that, it makes for a great villain. With all these great female characters, or at least dynamic or interesting female characters, why keep going back to a character that we don't know? It doesn't serve
yeah.
the film.
No, it doesn't. And if we're going to go back to him, at least make him do something interesting. I would say 90% of his scenes, he stood in the rain talking with the police officer. And that is literally his entire part in the movie. He's just his brief for the movie was, you're going to get wet a lot. And I think that's as deep as it got for him.
Definitely. And I feel for Sean Bean because he has to kind of spin this character into something where on page it's really just, the character. I can't remember his name, but he looks sad. What's his name? Dennis? Wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I,
Christopher, sorry.
yeah, I
That's
think,
it.
I think
Dennis, where did I get that from?
his character name's probably as irrelevant as him actually being in the movie.
I think so. So I think your wife was spot on. Every time it cuts back to him, and anything really outside of the bounds of Silent Hill, you're like, why are we doing this?
Yeah,
What's to be gained from out here?
yeah, and I've not watched the sequel, so I can't comment. I don't know if that plays into the sequel and that becomes more of an intricate part, and it was part of a longer story. But I'm not reviewing the franchise; I'm reviewing this movie, and for me, it didn't work.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of two minds about the kind of the latter half of the film where the religious fanaticism comes into it, the cults, the brethren, um, the story of how Alessa becomes split into three different forms. You have
Yeah,
Dark Alessa, you have the girl Alessa with the stringy black hair, and then you have Sharon, who is Alessa's light essence. The story of how that all pans out is a really interesting one. I watching it because that flashback, which is kind of done in like this kind of fisheye, almost a home video quality.
yeah,
It's an interesting story, but I can't help but wonder if there was another more dynamic way to include that throughout the film, because for an hour and a half, you're not sure what the hell's going on.
yeah,
You're with Rose, picking up tokens, going through drawers, picking out something out of the janitor's mouth while he's just kind of in barbed wire. And it's not until well into the film that you get answers. The issue with the script, I think, is that you just get a lot of answers all at once. It's very much an exposition dump.
yeah. Definitely, I completely agree with you on that. Um, I think we've talked about Silent Hill enough for now. Um, We'll come back to it, but I
Sure.
think what I think we should do now is, are you ready to give our quiz a go?
Oh goodness, yes. Let's do it.
Okay. So here's this week's Purge or Play. You are now entering the Purge or Play arena. The quiz for Home of Halloween's You Run podcast. The question is, will you purge or will you play? Okay, so let's get Purge or Play underway. Are you ready, Robbie?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, question number 1. What horror franchise has a villain with a glove made of razor blades?
That would be a Nightmare on Elm Street.
It is. That's 5 points, off to a flying start.
Yes.
Question number 2. What horror sequel is due for release on the 14th of January 2022?
That would be Scream.
It is indeed. So we're 2 in a row. The best anyone's ever done is 4 in a row. So let's see
goodness.
if you can go for that. Sam Raimi, obviously famously directed The Evil Dead. What superhero trilogy did he direct for Sony?
Spider-Man.
It is. That's 3 in a row. Question number 4. Out of these 2 villains, who has killed more, Freddy Krueger or Leatherface?
Oh no.
Don't forget, you've got purges. So if I completely forgot to explain the rules, let's do that quickly. You've got purges. So you've got 3 purges. You can use them at any time. You don't need to answer the question, and you still get 2 points for that question. So if you do get stuck, you've got 3 effectively passes on the questions.
Okay. All right, for sure. Leatherface or Freddy Krueger, you
Freddy
said.
Krueger.
I'm gonna oh my god. I'm gonna go with Freddy Krueger.
It is Freddy Krueger, so that's
Yes.
4 in a row. Freddy Krueger's got a current count of 42, Leatherface 34.
Is it really that close?
It is. I was surprised. I didn't think Leatherface had killed anywhere near that many.
No, yeah.
But yeah, he has. Question number 5. The Conjuring 2 is based on what real-life haunting?
The Enfield haunting.
It is. That is 5 in a row. That is the best start to this quiz we've ever had.
Woo!
And now it's going to get a lot harder.
Oh shit. All right, let's do it.
Question number 6. Who was the lead actor in the movie Stir of Echoes?
Kevin Bacon.
It was Kevin Bacon. Question number 8. In John Carpenter's Halloween, Donald Pleasance plays Dr. Loomis, but who played him in the Rob Zombie adaptation?
That would be Mr. Malcolm McDowell.
Wow, we are on for an incredible score so far. I've had people who've done well on the quiz, and you are absolutely destroying it. So
Yes.
we're on to the 3 hardest questions. So
Oh, no.
Laurie Holden played Sybil in Silent Hill, but who did she famously play in The Walking Dead?
That would be Andrea.
It is Andrea. Wow, you could be on for a clean sweep.
Oh god.
Question number 10. Question number 9. Let me do that again.
Yeah.
What famous wrestler played the lead in John Carpenter's They Live?
Roddy Piper.
It is. You are 1 question away from a perfect score.
Scott, let's hear it.
You need to be within $100,000 on this question. And don't forget, you've still got 3 purges, so you can still purge this question. So how much did the movie Apartment 143 that came out in 2012 take at the US box office?
What?
You need to be within $100,000.
How much did Apartment 1403, you said?
Apartment 143, 143.
What is that movie? Let's see. Within 100,000.
And you've still got 3 purges, so you can use the purges as well. or one of the Purges?
I'm gonna Purge. I'm gonna
Okay,
Purge.
so that's 2 points for that. If you were going to take a guess, what would you have guessed? Obviously, you've used the Purge.
I would have guessed this is a trick question, and it's gone to home video or home media.
No, it didn't. It had a US release, and it
Where?
made. It wasn't released in many theaters, and you'll understand why when I tell you how much it made. It made a grand sum of $383 at the US box office.
300. Oh my God. That was like, no disrespect. That was probably like the actual cast and crew that paid for it, but
it,
or
it
their
is
families.
the lowest grossing US box office horror movie.
Wow.
Worldwide, so it had a $900,000 budget to make, and worldwide it made 4.1 million. So overall, it done okay, but in the US, it absolutely bombed.
Is it any good? What is this movie?
uh, I when I dug this fact up, I went, I can't believe a movie only made $383. And I'd done that terrible thing where I went, I'm going to watch it. So I hunted it down. I hunted it down and I sat here late one night and I made it about 20 minutes in. And I just went, I completely understand why this made
Oh
$383.
no.
But I'll recommend anyone go and watch it just for the sheer entertainment factor of a movie that made less than $1,000 at the box office.
You know what? I'm gonna find this film on streaming. I'm gonna buy it. No, I'm gonna
Yeah.
rent it. I'll rent it just to just because.
Um, as for the quiz, you have absolutely decimated the quiz. And you had two purges left. And for each of the purges you had left, I'm going to give you 3 points. So you finished this quiz with a huge score of 53.
Yes.
There is nobody who's got that close. I normally tell my guests I'm not going to tell you where you've come because I release a leaderboard a couple of days after the episode. Um, I'm not going to do that with you because you've absolutely destroyed it. That's an incredible score and just a testament to how much you love horror. And what I said at the beginning, that you ooze horror movies and horror knowledge, you've just proven it to the world.
Oh well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
And that was this week's Purge or Play. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Robbie Horror making my really, really hard quiz, Purge or Play, look like it really wasn't really hard at all. Congratulations. I will
Thank you.
be astounded if anyone catches you by the
Oh,
end of the season.
thank you so much.
There's a chance, but someone will literally have to get a clean sweep and save all their purges to beat you. That score is phenomenal.
Thank you so much. That was nerve-wracking at first, but it was fun though. I appreciate it.
So yeah, now you've destroyed my quiz. Let's get your final thoughts on Silent Hill. So we're talking your final thoughts on it and who you would recommend see this movie.
It's my final thoughts. I think that when it comes to adapting a video game and really capturing the essence of how the game feels to the viewer or the player in this case, I think that Christoph Gans did a really spectacular job bringing the game to life. We have our qualms with the script, but when you really look at it in context of other films that are also based on video games, it really does stand out as a really kind of bold and daring vision. And I do not, it seems almost wrong to comment about the script because it's nitpicks here and there. What could they have taken out? How they could have done things differently? But upon rewatch, I'm a lot more impressed than I was the first time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a solid film. It's not something that I would go to, over and over necessarily. It's an extremely dark and gruesome film. So gorehounds, I think, would love it. People who have played the game, if they haven't seen it already, should absolutely see it because I really can't imagine a Silent Hill film being better than what this one is.
No,
Um,
and I think you've kind of captured it there. I think there's so much in this movie they done well. It's hard to point out what they done badly. So even things like the CGI is dated. I'm not going to lie. You look at the CGI and you go, that's CGI. But it's done in such a way that there are times when you go, I know that's CGI, but it still looks good. Like when the world melts away. There's some dodgy CGIs in the end with the barbed wire that's coming out of the pits of hell.
yes,
Um,
yeah.
but overall, it holds up well. The cast do a very good job, and they're all strong actors and actresses. There's no character in this that I kind of go, you're really not very good. And they've done a good job. Yes, it's got its flaws, but I would say anyone who likes really dark horror, this is somewhere to visit as kind of a taster of what that game world would be. They didn't master the game world, but I think they got pretty close.
Absolutely, and I would agree with you in that even horror fans who have not played the game, who have no interest in them, give this one a watch if if it's available where you are. I think it's a strong, and it definitely makes you feel something. Like I said, it is a bold work, and it every time I watch it, it gives me that same queasy feeling that it gave me the first time, and that's saying a lot. I feel like.
Yeah, it definitely does. And for anyone who is trying to find it, believe it or not, there is a full copy lurking on YouTube. There is a full copy of this on YouTube that I found when I was talking to someone else about it. And they said there's actually a copy on YouTube that's been there for 4 years and not been taken down.
Hmm.
Which I was
Well,
astounded when I found it.
and here I rented it on Apple TV or something.
So did I. I rented it as well, and I got told afterwards. I was like, "Really?" And then I went and
Yeah,
checked
no, like now,
it.
oh no.
And then when I looked at it, it is actually there. I was like, "Oh, but it's going to be full of adverts." So then I started watching it, and I watched it while I was doing something else, and it's literally the full movie, no adverts, no breaks, no nothing.
Is it good quality?
Yeah, it's really good quality.
All right, fans, if you have not seen Silent Hill, make your way over to YouTube and have a little excursion over there for sure.
Yeah, definitely, because it saves you renting it like me and Robbie did and spending money because it's free on YouTube. Uh, uh, um, I've got to thank you for coming on the show. Your love of horror just comes across in everything, and your knowledge has outstanded me on the quiz and throughout our conversation. The knowledge you have on horror and the directors and the cast, and it's been truly a pleasure to have you on the show.
Scott, the pleasure has been entirely mine. I thank you for having me on. And I love your show. I love your page. You're a wonderful person to talk to, and I've just had a great time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
A massive thank you to Robbie for coming on the show. I think if I said Robbie decimated our quiz, that would be the biggest understatement, the understatement of the year. Robbie's horror knowledge blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind, not just in the quiz, but on everything else when we're just generally chatting, the knowledge on the directors and the actors and the cast and the production. Robbie loves horror. There's no other way to cover it. I said at the beginning of the show I wasn't going to tell you where to find him, and now I am. So you can find Robbie on his own website, which is robbyhorror.com, or you can find him on Instagram, where he's Robbie_horror. Go and give him a follow. Go and show him some support. He is such a nice guy, as you've just heard. His knowledge is outstanding, and I think anyone who's not following him, who hasn't been and visited his website, is truly missing out. So go and give him a follow. Go and show him some support. And Robbie, again, thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge of everything and absolutely blowing my mind with how much harder I need to make Purge or Play. Thank you for that. Next week we're at the end. Next week is the season finale. And my God, what a season finale I've got lined up for you. I'm going to be joined by the three girls from the Horror Friendly podcast. That's Katie, Charlie, and Chantel. We're going to take on 7 in Trap or Torture Week. It is going to be one hell of an episode, one hell of an end to this season, which has been fantastic, and I've loved every minute of it. And I can't wait for you to hear what they've got to say and what I've got to say. So I'll catch you all for that next week. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for listening to Home of Halloween's You Run podcast.
You've done your job well, and Mommy is pleased.
Don't forget you can get involved in the show in so many ways.
Truly.
The 3-word review.
He's insane now.
Give the show a call. Anchor.fm/Home of Halloween. Leave us a voicemail and get a play on the air.
Beers to the left of me, beers to the right of me, let's do it.
Not to mention, give us a fact.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
This is the You Run podcast because you run the show.
Welcome to a new world of gods and monsters.
If you enjoy the show, leave us a review wherever you can.
This is God.
Or reach out to us direct and send us a DM.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
You want to die tonight?